All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on Cambium Networks and IIoT. With me, I have our Director of Product Management, Bruce Collins. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the question box on the right, and we will get to them throughout the presentation, and any straggler questions we have, we'll get to at the end. So without further ado, here's Bruce.
All right, thanks, Colin. And again, it's Bruce Collins here. I'm in the product management team, and we're going to be talking today about specifically oil and gas applications of our portfolio. So we'll be talking about a number of different ways that oil and gas petrochemical companies around the world are using our products to be more efficient in their operations. Like Colin mentioned, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in there, and we'll take them as we go. And then you can always revisit this session on a recording later on if you'd like back on the community. So let's jump into it. The oil and gas is really a fairly major vertical for Cambium Networks, and especially when you look out across all of the different applications that broadband and narrowband wireless communications can be used. So I kind of wanted to start there with some of the key applications that we see people using our products for. And certainly if you have other applications that aren't on here, we'd love to hear about those as well. But I'll start with the SCADA process control and monitoring. This is kind of a traditional application to monitor wellheads and field sites, the oil field pipeline for monitoring temperature and various sensors. We have products that can support that, and really it's around making those operations more efficient and safe. We also talk about remote access control. This is the ability to allow the access and accessibility to remote field sites. So I guess the point I was going to make was physical security has become more important. As much as cybersecurity gets press, physical security is just as important. So video surveillance applications, the ability to do liftgate control, understand who's accessing the sites and preventing unauthorized access. Lease line replacement, that continues to be a big trend as the 4-wire analog circuits are being replaced and end of life by the carriers. The oil and gas operators are looking for alternatives, and replacing those analog wire lines with wireless connectivity can be a big step forward, not only in reducing the monthly fee that you pay the carrier every month, but actually getting more capacity and more flexibility in how you use those communications assets. Remote office connectivity, so with all of the information and knowledge that's stored in online sources, of course, it's important to be able to get access regardless of where you are in the field. So being able to provide remote office connectivity, whether it's Wi-Fi hotspots on a well pad or in a remote office, being able to connect back is important. Metering applications, metering continues to grow in importance, and is one of the things we focus on with metering is how does the metering application coexist, co-locate with these other applications so that you don't have conflicts with whether it's spectrum usage or bandwidth usage, that you can share those common backhaul and common communications infrastructure between the monitoring groups and the metering groups. I mentioned a little bit about physical security. This is really around how do we make sure that people are only authorized people are accessing different devices, and when they do access that device, how do we log that information and make sure that we know who was on site at what time, and we can sort of prevent any kind of threats from a physical access, and it can also provide safety for personnel. Leak detection and rupture detection on pipeline applications has become is really a growing area, both from an environmental aspect but also an economic aspect. As the pipelines and infrastructure are aging, the number of leaks continues to increase, the ability to react quickly, stop the leak, and provide a rapid recovery on that is important. And wireless communications can help with that by bringing a much wider view of sensors back to a location. Rapid deployment for drilling applications. We offer, with drilling applications starting up and again in increasing through 2017, and we expect ongoing, the ability to provide broadband to the drilling rigs without having to provide a lot of expertise in alignment becomes an important aspect, and we have different solutions for this, whether it's a point-to-multipoint solution or a quick deploy positioner, which allows operators to automatically align antennas without having wireless experts out there on site, so that you can quickly deploy these communications. And then we also see an ongoing couple of higher level trends, the IT-OT convergence. So as these networks and operations migrate from, say, serial-only connections to TCP/IP connections, or as the policies and procedures that are required from an information technology standpoint start to blend with the operations technology in the digital oil field, that convergence can certainly be supported by the additional bandwidth and capabilities provided by these wireless communications techniques. And then probably overriding all of this is all of the press that we read about and see in the industrial Internet of Things is about analytics. And what analytics is driving, besides the efficiencies and productivity gains that can be had, the net effect is that it's driving more bandwidth requirements. So either through the need for thermal imaging for video-based analytics, or more rapid polling cycles with deeper polling cycles on individual devices in the field, the analytics are driving this need for more capacity in the oil field. So we see that as another sort of major trend. So that's kind of a summary of the applications we see. Again, if you have applications that you're using in the oil field or that you hear about, we'd love to hear about them. You can post on our community forum or drop me a note. So we're always looking to see how people are using the products. What I'm going to do for the rest of the session is talk about our product portfolio and how it applies to some of these applications. And then we'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive on our SCADA process control solution, which is CNReach.
Hey Bruce, if I could stop you for one quick second. We do have a question asking if we will share the slides after the webinar. So I know we will be sharing the webinar itself on the community page. Can you give any insight as to if we send out the slide deck as well?
We can certainly make this deck available. This is, and I'll also point you to the website. We have a specific solutions brochure around oil and gas, which highlights some of these areas. But certainly we can. I'll take a note here and post this deck in a PDF format up on the community forum.
Great, thanks.
So continuing on, when we talk about the industrial Internet of Things and Cambium networks, we're really focused on these applications that I described on the previous page. And what makes those areas of importance to us, or areas of focus for us, is really three things. We're looking at wide geographic areas. We're looking at multiple points of presence, so lots of different places where you want to place a sensor or a camera or a Wi-Fi hotspot. And then the ability to move all of that data confidently and confidentially, so both securely and reliably across the network back to a place where you can either take action or deliver that data onto the internet or to the user of the information. And to that end, we focus on the large outdoor industrial verticals. Oil and gas is certainly foremost in that area. It's probably, of these industrial verticals, the biggest area. We also work with electric utilities, rail transport companies, water and wastewater management, and then intelligent transportation for some smart city applications like traffic control and those types of applications. So really, this kind of oil and gas applications fit into the larger umbrella of our industrial Internet of Things portfolio. And that's really what this next slide is describing. When we look at the whole breadth of the Cambium portfolio, we see a number of different slices or pieces that make up our industrial IoT set of products. And I'll kind of cover those from left to right here to give you a sense of the different products and tools that you can bring to bear on different problems. So starting there on the left, you've got licensed microwave backhaul. This is our PTP-820. That's oftentimes used as a high-capacity ring around a oil field or even a set of operations in the pipeline space or even some of the office applications. This provides high availability and very high capacity, greater than in the gigabits per second capacities. We also offer backhaul products in below 6 gigahertz. This is our PTP-650 and PTP-450i. It's available in the 900 megahertz ISM band. It's also available in the 3 gigahertz, 3.65 and CBRS bands and 5 gigahertz. This is really useful for delivering a few hundred megabits per second to a remote area. It might be a spur off that PTP-820 ring. Can deliver lots of capacity to remote areas over long distances. Then we have our PMP-450i, which is really used for aggregation, remote access, and video surveillance. Really, that's the sweet spot for the 450i platform within the industrial space. So whether you're connecting up the Wi-Fi hotspots or a number of video cameras, you can aggregate that in a hub and spoke architecture back to an access point. And this product, again, is very scalable and flexible in the fact that it's scalable up to a couple hundred devices per access point. Although in a video surveillance application, you wouldn't normally see that many. You would see sort of, perhaps a few dozen cameras, but certainly large numbers of video streams can be brought back to an access point. And then as far as flexibility, it's available in all those different bands I mentioned. You can also do synchronization to allow very high levels of spectrum reuse. So I can use 2 channels to cover a very large area using AB channel planning or 4-sector deployments that allow for very high density and highly scalable solutions. We also have our CN Pilot product, which is our Wi-Fi access portfolio. This is an all-outdoor 802.11ac product. It's very attractively priced and very easy to manage using our CN Maestro cloud-based or premises-based solution for access point management and scaling up this network. But really, it's used for providing Wi-Fi access to your employees as they're in a remote area, or you can certainly scale the CN Pilot application to your office-based environments as well. In this context, the E500 is for all outdoor applications. And then the device, or the column on the right, is the CN Reach platform. This is for SCADA process control and monitoring. I've listed here 700 megahertz and 900 megahertz. It's also available in 450 megahertz, which I'll talk about briefly. That product is just launching here later this month. And CN Reach, as I'll go into more detail, is really useful for providing reliable connectivity to process control and automation devices, whether using SCADA for serial connectivity or TCP/IP connectivity.
Hey Bruce, we have a couple questions.
Sure.
First one, regarding applications related to oil and gas and IIoT, are you seeing more LoRa types of Sigfox type of deployments on the field?
So that's actually, I have a slide on it here in a little bit. I'll talk about that. But just as a background, LoRa is a wide area networking technology that's used most commonly in, I would say some smart city applications, connecting to sensors that are very long battery life and very low duty cycle or data collection cycle. So we have not seen that that take off entirely, although I would expect in some metering applications, LoRa will make sense. And then also some, like I mentioned, very low duty cycle monitoring or applications where I maybe only have to monitor a sensor every 24 hours or less. That might be a useful application. But it's I kind of look at that as a different set of techniques or a different tool set. Cambium's certainly not averse to that, and we see some good applications for that type of technology.
Great. And as far as our CN Pilot E500 is concerned, does that have meshing capability?
Yeah, that's one thing that's it's important. I should have mentioned is as you go into these wider area outdoor applications, you can provide some meshing capability with that E500. So it does provide that.
It does, yeah, one hop mesh out of the box. And one more question for now. What is the achievable throughput versus distance for oil and gas industry using the PTP 450i?
So that's a kind of a broad question. I think it's a good one though to have a little bit of a discussion about. Whether you're talking about our 450i in multi-point or point-to-point configuration, or really any of our point-to-point products as well. We have a tool called Link Planner that I would definitely recommend you take a look at. The Link Planner is available for download from our website, and it allows you to do very specific what-if scenarios around a particular link that you have in mind. So if you want to connect point A to point B, it'll tell you what the terrain is between those 2 points, and it'll tell you what kind of capacity you would expect to get over that distance. But having said that, to give you some more rules of thumb on your question, if you're doing a point to multi-point application where I'm using a sector antenna for a point to multi-point 450i, we see customers typically deploying those in say 5 to 7 mile radius. Certainly you can go further than that depending on the terrain and the selection of the antenna, but that's a pretty typical rule of thumb for a PMP 450i. For a PTP 450i or 650, those devices can either be fitted with an integrated panel antenna, or they can be fitted with as big as an 8-foot dish to go very long distances. So our record link is 245 kilometers, or about 150 miles, with a PTP 650. So you can certainly go. We see many applications in the 60 to 80 kilometers or 40 to 50 mile range. It all depends on terrain, line of sight, noise floor, those types of things. But I'd always direct you back to Link Planner for estimating what you might expect to get in your particular scenario.
Great.
So I have a couple of pictures here. I'll just show you just as an example. Here's a pump jack with a Yagi antenna. This is an application using CN Reach. You'll also see an RTU in the middle. The RTU is collecting information from a whole variety of sensors on that pump jack. It might be pulling in information from other locations, tanks or flares around that same well field, pulling that information into an RTU, and then you can see the CN Reach module, using that as the wireless connectivity back to the master station, which will then be analyzing that data or making decisions in controlling the application, whether it's a metering or monitoring application. This is that slide I was going to come back to on the question about LoRa. We really look at, when we talk to oil and gas customers, they really are looking at a couple of major questions or decisions to make about their network. One of them is whether to go with a private network or with a carrier network. And a private network, as you might expect from the name, is controlled by the operator. So the oil and gas company controls access to that network, controls how much capacity is available for each application and is monitoring and maintaining that network exclusively for themselves. The other end of that spectrum on the right-hand side is the carrier network, which is leveraging the 3G or 4G communications that's available from public carriers and shared with consumers and business users for smartphone access, for example. The trade-off, of course, is you're paying a subscription or a monthly fee to get access or data off of that network, and you're sharing that data with all the other customers for that carrier. So that area is certainly emerging. We see some operators using that as a backup, deploying a private network and then using some 3G and 4G as opportunistic displacement of coverage. Certainly a private network can be deployed to provide coverage where you need it versus where the consumers are, and that's typically where the carrier networks have been deployed. And then there's a range of sort of I call public networks or wide area networks that are deployed using LoRa or some proprietary standards, and they kind of blend the two between private and carrier networks. So certainly some options there. Today, Cambium is focused on providing private networks and providing backhaul for some of those other solutions in the LoRa type of applications or the carrier networks. So I'll talk a little more specifically about CNReach. This is our SCADA process control and monitoring platform. We really are, when we look at this platform, we're looking at a number of key aspects of the solution. Looking at and how can we address more applications for the oil and gas customer. So we talk about deployment flexibility. That same module that you see there on the right, the exact same hardware can be deployed in a point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, or a relay configuration. It has, optionally, you can have some specific digital and analog I/O built in. In the 900 megahertz version, you can use both the MAS licensed 900 as well as the ISM unlicensed 900 on the same exact piece of hardware. So I can start out with ISM unlicensed spectrum and then later on move over to licensed if it makes sense. Or I can certainly carry the same product throughout my field and use some cases licensed and some unlicensed, but the exact same piece of hardware, and which really helps out with sparing strategies and deployment training and that sort of thing. We also offer dual radio options, which allow both that point-to-point links, but also store and forward or back-to-back relay configurations, which I'll talk about in a bit. From a reliability aspect, these are all tested 100% at a factory over temperature. So both functional testing and startup testing at -40 and +60 degrees Celsius, which works out to about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. They are Class 1 Div 2 rated for hazardous environments, and these are all manufactured right here in the United States. Low power consumption. One of the key requirements for pipeline deployments or remote digital well fields is the ability to operate off of battery power. And so these are low power consumption, typically just a few watts, and can be deployed with solar panels or battery systems to provide a very low cost deployment into very remote areas. Scalability, the ability to have multiple access points on a common tower so that I can scale up the network, reduce self-interference, and increase the efficiency of the network by synchronizing access points. I'll talk a bit about that in a later slide. Security is an important piece of this. As many of you know, our heritage at Cambium is to come out of the public safety and world with Motorola Solutions. We also have deployed many networks through the Department of Defense and national security applications, and then of course the oil and gas and electric utility applications. So security is a key aspect for all of our products, and CNReach is no different. The product supports encrypted transport and secure management interfaces. So it's another area to consider. And then management is really an area that I'd like to spend a little time on. This is, while you can manage this radio with a web-based interface or even through the serial port in some applications, the real interesting thing is to manage it with our CN Maestro platform, which can either be deployed in the cloud or on premises. This is a tool that lets you do really a single pane of glass management of the entire network, and I'll show you some examples of that in an upcoming slide. And then I mentioned Link Planner. So really, when we look at the narrowband platform, we're looking at all of these different capabilities tied together to provide it's really a best-in-class solution for oil and gas applications in SCADA process control. On the deployment topologies, I mentioned that a bit. In the upper left here, so basically this diagram is showing the different ways you can deploy CN Reach. In the upper left, you have a point-to-point, very basic application. As you move down, you'll see a point-to-multipoint with an access point feeding a number of endpoints. We typically see, again, a rule of thumb for the number of endpoints off of an access point is about maybe 50 to 70, although we've certainly seen that number go higher or lower. The repeater capability, you'll see two different examples of repeaters in this diagram. One is a store and forward repeater. That's the traditional approach, where I have a radio that talks sometimes to the left and sometimes to the right, and thus shares that same channel in each direction. But if you go below that, you'll see a back-to-back repeater, and that's a dual radio scenario where I have a radio module with a radio aiming in the east direction and one radio aiming in the west direction, and they can both be communicating at the exact same time. So I don't lose capacity in that repeater node. I can also drop data off at that repeater node to serve a local requirement and then feed more data down the line to an endpoint. So again, this would be very useful for a pipeline application if I'm doing things like a leak detection application, for example. I won't go into a lot of the specs. You can find all these spec sheets for the different frequencies available on our website. I will point out a few things on here. As I mentioned before, the 900 megahertz product is available. The same exact hardware can be configured for operating in the licensed or unlicensed band. And then you'll see a variety of different channel bandwidths. Of course, the licensed band, typically being deployed at 12.5 or 25 kilohertz channels, will have a lower capacity than the unlicensed band, which can go in real usable throughput using TCP or UDP applications is more about 2.5 megabits per second in a typical unlicensed scenario. We also have this product available in 700 megahertz. 700 megahertz spectrum is an interesting band. It's two pieces of 1 megahertz spectrum that are available for license, exclusive license and purchase from a company, a couple of companies that own this spectrum today. And so if your organization is interested, and there are a number of petrochem companies that have either already purchased this spectrum or are investigating it, this provides exclusive access to a piece of spectrum that would be completely controlled by your organization. Some of the things that we provide with CN Reach are very high power, so 10 watts output power, which is more than any other radio in this band. And then we also offer up to 250 kilohertz channels. So with a 250 kilohertz channel, you can get upwards of about 600 kilobits per second real usable throughput, and in a bidirectional, you can get up to about 800 kilobits per second. So quite a lot of capacity in a very small channel size, and with the power capability of 10 watts, you can go long distances on this device. This is just a recent image of the map of availability of the spectrum. So you can see some of the spectrum has been purchased by different operators you can see some West Texas and down in the southwest of the United States. I should also point out that 700 megahertz is currently a United States band only. Although we do continue to investigate other bands outside of the United States, this one is located primarily here in the U.S. But everywhere that is not red would be available for purchase from our partners over at Access Spectrum and Select Spectrum. And we have more information about that on our website, or you can contact me for more details on that. We're also introducing a 450 megahertz version of CNReach. This product operates in licensed spectrum. This is spectrum that can be licensed directly from the FCC, or in many cases, organizations have legacy licenses from some old two-way radio or voice circuits that can be repurposed for IP-based circuits. And here you can see we offer two different subbands, it's in the same hardware, but it operates 406 to 430 and 450 to 470. This product in the U.S. operates up to 8 watts. Out in the ETSI compliance areas of the world, it's up to 2 watts, although in our roadmap by mid-summer, we'll have an 8-watt version for ETSI locations as well. Most of the applications for this product are in 12.5 and 25 kilohertz. The radio is, because we use software-defined radio with CNReach, we have the ability to add additional channel bandwidths and additional modulations as the market demands. So as and when higher channel aggregation is available in 450 megahertz in different parts of the world, we can add wider channel bandwidths, much like we did, like I showed you in the 700 megahertz. With 450 megahertz, you can also go up to these larger channel bandwidths. But in practice, most of the places around the world, these are deployed as 12.5 kilohertz channels with some opportunity to aggregate to a 25 kilohertz channel. So again, these are typically low capacity, but very reliable and long distance connections. We also offer an I/O expander. This is the ability to add Ethernet or serial connectivity and digital analog I/O connectivity to the end of an Ethernet-based subscriber module. So if you're using one of our point-to-point broadband products or our point-to-multipoint broadband products, you can connect a I/O expander off of one of those Ethernet ports and basically break that out to a couple of serial devices, some analog and digital I/O, and still provide full management of that device. So that's where this differs from what you might find in the market as an Ethernet to serial converter. This is still fully manageable from our CN Maestro. And speaking of CN Maestro, I'll talk about that in a little more detail now. So this is a screenshot of the CN Maestro management solution managing a CNReach, small CNReach network. And I'll highlight a few things on here. But really, CN Maestro is focused on giving you a single pane of glass view of what's happening in the network. And so to kind of get the landscape right here, you can see in the middle part of the screen, you'll see a map of the location of the different radios. You'll see a little bit to the right of that, the device health widget. This is showing the topology or hierarchy of the radios. This is all auto-discovered and determined automatically by CN Maestro. So while those topologies are fairly complex with CNReach, the CN Maestro application discovers that automatically. So you can see here I've got a dual radio that has an endpoint on one radio and an access point on the other radio. So it's a dual module. You can see it's depicted in the picture there. You can see that underneath that access point I have another endpoint, and then that endpoint is sort of the end of the network in that case. Then as I highlight any of those individual radios, in this case that endpoint, to the right I'll see all of the detailed information about that device, including its status, its version of software, how it's operating, and you'll see the ability to determine how much capacity or how much data it's pulled on a given period of time, so you can track its performance. And then you can also see if there's any alarms on that device. Later this year, we'll also be adding the ability to do complete configuration management and firmware upgrades to those devices as well, all from a central location. So this capability in CNMaestro is available for beta right now, and we'll be releasing it in a version of software later this month that will allow you to manage all of your CNReach network from CNMaestro. A couple of things I kind of gave a little zoom in on a couple of those areas. I think it's important to note the auto discovery capability. So discovering that topology as you onboard new radios, there's no need to go in and manually connect up which endpoint's talking to which access point. That's all automatically discovered as each device is onboarded into CNMaestro. I'll also point out that CNMaestro uses a very small amount of bandwidth, and its mechanism is to use a device agent on the radio. That's unique from other SNMP-based monitoring tools. The way that works is the device agent in the radio itself is actually determining when it sends information up to the server, and that does a couple things. One is it helps keep the bandwidth usage under control, and it also provides that security aspect where I don't have to poke any holes in any firewalls. All of that data is being from the inside out rather than from the outside in. So it provides a more secure architecture as well. And then you can see as you migrate these networks in an oil and gas environment from all serial only radios to IP radios, the level of monitoring and understanding of what's happening in the network goes up by orders of magnitude. Now I know exactly how each radio is behaving. I can get access to this from anywhere anywhere in the organization. I don't have to roll a truck out there to see what's happening. It's all coming from one location. I have one common data source for all this information. And one other capability I want to highlight with CNMaestro is the ability to change passwords. This is important as cybersecurity threats become an everyday occurrence when you read the press and understanding what's happening with around the world with security. The ability to manage and maintain security parameters in your network is important, and it becomes part of the normal operating process for these networks. So what I'm showing here is the ability to push CNReach security parameters, in this case the administrator password and the SNMP community strings, out to the end devices in an automated fashion. So I can schedule a job to change this. Let's say my corporate policy is to change passwords every 14 days or every 30 days. I can do that with a template and push this out. And what I'm doing here is I'm selecting all my CNReach radios, selecting whatever kind of mode they're operating in, and I'm going to change the passwords. And I'll start that job, and it'll go off, and it'll just do it all automatically, and it'll tell me when it's done. That type drop-down window at the top is important because CNMaestro can manage all of our different devices. Certainly it manages our 450i platform today, our CM Pilot Wi-Fi platform, and then the 650 and the 820 will be coming along later this year. And of course, the example I'm showing you here is with CNReach.
Hey Bruce, does this CNReach have a particular way to be reset in case of a lost password?
Right, so there's a couple of ways to do that. One is certainly through CNMaestro. You can push out new password parameters automatically, so you can recover devices that way. If I'm local to a device, if I have physical access to the device, there is a way to take it off the network and recover that device. But it would require, requires that physical access. The alternative, of course, is to use CNMaestro. So one of the aspects of CNReach is the large amount of connectivity it can provide. As you saw in the pictures, it has 2 serial ports, 2 Ethernet ports, and the digital and analog I/O. So effectively, you can use CNReach to talk to any device with a serial port on it. You can talk to any device with a Ethernet port running TCP/IP communications. It can look like a terminal server or a terminal client, and it can pass any of the SCADA control protocols over that network. And then I'll show you some examples. You can also tie directly into an analog sensor or a digital I/O to do some local interfacing as well.
A couple more questions just
Sure.
came in. Does CNReach support NAT and port forwarding?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So one of the capabilities when, and that's a very specific question. So let me jump it up to a context. One of the important things with licensed narrowband products like CNReach, so it's operating in 450 megahertz licensed or 700 megahertz licensed or 900 megahertz licensed, is that you want to make sure that only the right data goes out over that connection, because I have a limited amount of bandwidth. So one of the ways that we manage or maintain that is to use NAT or port forwarding to prevent, say, somebody connecting a laptop at the end of out in a digital oil field and try to use that laptop to come back across the network. So we have a number of capabilities in the platform to do things like NAT, which would prevent unknown IP addresses from coming back out across the network. We also have a feature called IP filtering, so I can filter out devices or IP addresses from going out over the backhaul. And then also we have the ability to set up, while the product can be deployed as a layer 2 bridge, you can also set up static routes to reduce the amount of unneeded or unwanted transmissions from going over that licensed connection.
Great. Can the CNReach use a radius server to verify usernames and passwords?
So that's a feature that we have on our roadmap. Today it does not. Today you have a couple different access levels at the CNReach device. You have a administrator password, and then we also have a read-only password. So if you want to give your technicians the read-only password, they would be able to log into the radio but not make any changes to the configuration. And then those settings or passwords can be changed as often as you like through CNMaestro. We do have Radius support and TACAX Plus support on the roadmap for later this year, and that will allow more direct interface to like an IT organization using that. The only thing I would say is you might also consider using Maestro for many of those applications so that you're reducing the number of users that have to actually go out and access the individual radios.
The scheduled password change, is that only applicable for CNReach, or is that something that we can do with other products as well, like ePMP, via CNMaestro?
So so while CNMaestro supports that on any of the different products, the support within the actual product is on a different, will vary depending on the software features or roadmap for that device. So, for example, I believe that's supported today on the 450i platform. I believe it's coming soon on ePMP platform. And then later this year, we'll be adding support for the 650 and the 820. So I don't know the specifics on that one, but I'd say look at the release notes for CNMaestro, and certainly the expectation is that this ability to change passwords will be across all of the different platforms.
Okay, great. One more question right there.
Okay, so yeah, there's a question. There's one more question about the capacity of CNReach. Let me just step back to an example. I'm going to move back to the 900 megahertz slide because that gives us kind of a sense of both licensed and unlicensed. On the licensed side, with a 12.5 or 25 kilohertz channel, you're going to see a real usable throughput of, say, anywhere from 20 to 100 kilobits per second of real usable throughput. So low capacity, but Typically, a SCADA pole or a machine-to-machine interface will have a low amount of data in each transaction. Now, with the unlicensed ISM band, we'll see up to about 2.5 megabits per second of TCP/IP traffic or UDP traffic on an unlicensed band network. So those are the kind of think few dozen kilobits per second to 100 kilobits per second on licensed spectrum, and about 2 to 2.5 megabits per second on unlicensed. The exception being 700 megahertz, where we support upwards of 600 kilobits per second in those larger channel sizes on the 700 megahertz product.
A couple more questions came in still. Can the password change ability recover an unknown password on a device?
I believe the answer to that is yes, but we'll post something on the knowledge base and the community forum to confirm that specifically. Remember that the device agent, CNMaestro works based on a device agent mechanism. So you have a device agent that's running in each radio, and that device agent is authenticated back to the CNMaestro server. So you have an authenticated connection between the radio and the CNMaestro server. So being able to push that password out, I believe you can do that and overwrite that existing password using that password update service.
Okay, one more.
Sure.
For now.
Oh, it's good. I do appreciate all the questions. It's good to hear.
Yeah. So most narrowband radios don't offer an association table on the master radio. So it's a two-part question. Does CNReach offer this, or would it be better to use CNMaestro to visualize downstream connections? Well,
it certainly, I would recommend using CNMaestro because that's going to give you that topology view, and it's a very convenient format, and you can see. The other thing that CNMaestro will give you is it will give you the things like the amount of data that's passed to each of those end leaf nodes in the network. CNReach itself, if you go into the GUI, you'll be able to see what's called a neighbor list. So if you look at a master or an access point in a CNReach network, and you look at the neighbor list, you'll see all of the devices that that are associated with that AP. So you have a couple options there. Okay, so I'll keep moving here. Serial services is one I want to point out because it's important again for those licensed spectrum applications. What serial service does is the ability to provide a serial connectivity throughout an oil field. So if you have an existing serial network and you want to start managing that network, or you want to start introducing IP comms into that network, you can still pass that serial traffic over the network in a very similar way that you're used to doing it, where serial traffic comes into the endpoint and then is made available back at the serial node on that access point. And two things happen there. One is because we know it's serial traffic, we can strip off all of the IP headers, make the whole network operate more efficiently because we're just sending the serial data only across the network. And also it makes it look very transparent to the applications, where to them it's just looking like a serial device on one end of the network and a serial device on the other. And any complexity with TCP/IP is masked and stripped away so that you have a very efficient way of doing that. And at the same time, I'm sharing that capability, or sharing that network with Ethernet traffic. So now I can also pass some Ethernet data at the same exact time that I'm sending the serial data, and I can also manage those radios using CNMaestro or directly logging into the radio. And then I won't go into much detail, but you can find on our website and on the forum information about our digital and analog I/O capability. This is the, and I've shown a couple examples here. One is one interesting example on the right is I just want to have a dry contact switch in case somebody opens the door on a panel or is accessing a panel. I can put a couple dry contact switches on there, and I'm notified using a Modbus pole. I can tell at what point somebody opened up that door. I know what, and if something happens later in the network, I know that it was perhaps due to the fact that somebody was just recently inside that cabinet. So it's providing a little bit of physical security. It doesn't require any additional RTU or PLC because I'm driving it directly off of the radio module itself. I can also do things like drive motors and other types of, and read other types of sensors with our digital input and output. Similarly, you can drive and receive analog signals using both our analog in or analog out capability. So again, a lot more detail in the application note that's up on our website. I talked about physical interfaces. Here you can see a little bit better picture of the devices. If you want to see more information about that too, you can get the spec sheets and everything on here. But well, I guess one thing I'll point out is you do see in the lower right there a dual radio module. You'll see two RF connectors, and that's really indicating that there's two radios in that same module. That's how you use that back-to-back repeater capability. I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to move over some of this, but I do want to point out a couple things. One of them is that CNReach is a TDD radio. We find that in many cases a TDD radio is a more efficient use of the air interface, and especially as you reuse that spectrum throughout a field. So the technology behind CNReach is it's a TDD radio that's using an uplink and a downlink slot that's determining how much information is being sent in the transmit direction and how much is being received in the uplink direction. CNReach supports adaptive modulation. This is important again for efficiency. The ability to let each endpoint determine how fast it can go or what modulation it can achieve allows each endpoint to get on the air and off the air faster and use less airtime, and then let more devices get onto the network. So each endpoint transmits at its most efficient mode. I should also point out that the access point is sending in the same mode in all cases. Effectively, the access point transmits at the lowest modulation needed to reach the furthest endpoint. So that's the mechanism is same modulation on the outbound direction, highest available per endpoint in the uplink direction.
On that a little bit, is there a roadmap for 128 QAM or any higher modulation for that matter?
So so CNReach is a software-defined radio. So we do have the ability to adjust modulation rates. I would say more likely we would be adding 64 QAM to the different modes, licensed and unlicensed, and the different channel sizes would be the other option. Going to higher modulations, it's certainly a possibility, and the hardware can support that. It might make sense in some of the licensed spectrum where there's more precise control over that. What I would say is just as likely, though, is adding more coding to the existing modulations to increase the reliability of that link in the presence of noise or interference. So that's another advantage you get with a software-defined radio, is the ability to change the not only go for the higher speed, but also go for the higher reliability. And with a software-defined radio, we can make those we can tune both of those parameters. The CNReach can also support synchronization. So this is the ability to put multiple access points on the same tower or in the same geographic area and make sure that they are synchronized or timed to transmit and receive at the exact same time, so that I can determine, I can make sure that one access point is not talking while another one is meant to be listening. So everything is synchronized. We use the Cambium UGPS as a sync source, so that receives that very precise 1 pulse per second signal from a satellite, and then provides that precise timing to all of the APs in the network. I mentioned Link Planner. Here's an example screen of Link Planner. This is showing, again, I can pick the point A and point B in a path profile, determine what is the terrain between those two endpoints, and then go in and select the antenna that I'm interested in, the channel bandwidth, the modulation, the antenna height, all the things that might go into a scenario plan, and then it'll tell me what kind of capacity I can expect to achieve. So today we support see and reach in a point-to-point configuration, and we'll be adding point-to-multipoint again in the roadmap. See and reach is supported by all of our different support options within Cambium. So we have a global sales team that consists of sales managers as well as what we call regional technical managers or pre-sales engineers. We also have a top-notch inside sales team that can handle any questions you might have in finding the right product for your for the problem you're facing. And then we have a extensive global channel of value-added resellers and system integrators that are familiar with our products and can help you solve the problem you're going after. And they're backed up, of course, by the Cambium team here. We have full support capabilities, everything from the 24/7 call center support to different options in Cambium Care. We'll talk a bit about the community forum, and then we do a number of training options. We offer full certified training. We'll have a See and Reach certified training course in June. Watch for information about that. That'll be held in Denver, Colorado, here in the U.S. We'll be doing a certified training for See and Reach in Australia also in June, and then look for other options as we go into the second half of the year. There'll be other options or opportunities for training.
Yeah, so I can cover the social media part, but I did want to cover any last-minute questions before I do this. There is one question. If you guys have any last-minute ones, definitely type those up now. So is there a recommended cable length going from the See and Reach to the Yagi antenna?
Well, it's going to be, you're going to want to, well, the obvious answer, I guess, is to keep it as short as possible, and then use the highest quality cable. So it's hard for me to give you one specific answer on that. Everything from a few feet or meters to 6 or 8 meters is probably a typical range. As you go longer than that, of course, you'll have some cable loss. With the licensed spectrum, our radios have a little more power, so we can pump some more power into that and overcome some of that cable loss. But Link Planner has that capability to tell the length of cable and the type of cable that's being run between the radio and the antenna, so it will actually add in that additional cable loss, and you can model that as well.
Great. So anyways, as we have the slide pulled up here, we have loads of different social media. So if there's any of these that you prefer, we are available on most of them. And the best way to reach us, though, is obviously our community forum. You have people that actively use our radios and our competitors' radios and say, what's good, what's bad about each of them. And it's a great way to talk to other people that do similar things as you, as well as getting an official response from us if you request it, usually within a day. And there's the there's the slide for it. So there's the link if you want to go check it out. You can see the products, network planning, languages, businesses, issues, and that's it. We do have one more question if you guys want that. Let's see. Can the See and Reach NO radio be paired to an ePMP network to provide the same capabilities with higher throughput?
Oh, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this question is referring to the I/O expander. So that's an ability to put the I/O expander from CNReach has 2 serial ports and the digital analog I/O, and as well as 2 Ethernet ports. So you can place that at the end of you could, in theory, place that at the end of a PMP450i network. You could place it at the end of an ePMP network and provide that different kinds of I/O connectivity, and that would give you the full management capability. So you'd see, just like in the CN Maestro example, you would see what's happening at that device, and then you would also be able to monitor how much traffic is going to that device. So yeah, that would be a workable application.
Great. And I did forget to mention, someone reminded me here, this session has been recorded and it will be posted on the community forum in just a little bit here. So if you would like to rewatch this webinar at any point, you can definitely do that. Is there any future webinar on CN Maestro? And yes, in short.
Yeah, actually, there's going to be one in, I believe it's just 2 weeks from today. There's going to be one that'll be a much more specific examples of using CN Maestro to manage CNReach. So it'll basically walk through the entire process of managing a CNReach network with Maestro. So it'll go through the onboarding process, the monitoring, and we'll go through in more detail that password change feature, and then some of the other reporting capabilities that are in Maestro. So yeah, look for that one. I believe it's on the 16th, but all of those webinars are listed on our website.
Mm-hmm. We update them monthly, so you can check generally at the beginning of a month to see the roadmap for the webinars for that particular month. All right, it looks like we're out of questions here. So thank you everyone for joining us on our webinar. Thanks, Bruce, for the great presentation, and we'll see you all next week.